It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing when you let your nuts hang.
So it's important to note that everything that the Menace is doing, has been doing, and is doing to this point is purely out of envy, purely out of control, and just purely to ruin my life. That was the intent. So my lawyer has already told the Menace and I that this situation is going to be done the next prosecutor meeting. It will not go to trial. You'll be fine. The most you'll get is a fine. So at this point, I'm obviously inclined to just stick to the script. I know that's not the best thing to say, but that's my truth. To just get out of this situation, and if whatever the whole lie that the Menace concocted, if that works, then hey, I can be done with this, and I can be done with the Menace, and I can move on with my life. That's what I'm more inclined to do at this point. The Menace knows that. I know that. So everything that he's doing is just throwing me. He couldn't kill me. He tried to kill me with perks. He tried to kill me by drugging me. So since that didn't work, he's now trying to ruin everything that I have built. That's where we're at now. So now I am back and forth from the KMP station, and I'm back and forth to the MP station. I'm now sitting down with the MPs. I'm finishing up stuff with them, updating them on everything. And I'm with the MPs, and my lawyer sends me over an email and a text message basically saying that the Menace has sent he and the prosecutors an email. That email consists of everything that I've already told you that he was planning to send if I didn't get back with him and didn't respond to him by 8 p.m. So he sends that email over. 2 days later, the Menace retracts that email and says that everything in that email was a lie. His ex-wife hacked into his email and wrote that email and sent it to them. Everything was a lie. The text messages and the video evidence and all that stuff that he sent over was from before he knew me, and the text message was edited to say my name. He says that he would never do anything like this, that he and I are getting married, and that he would never do that to his future wife. Mind you, I have not talked to the Menace at this point. The Menace is still trying to get in contact with me. He's trying to contact me from other numbers. He has created email accounts to get in contact with me on. It's pretty much spiraling back and forth about how he loves me, how like we need to be together for this, and yeah, all of that. He loves me and he's threatening me. It's kind of going back and forth, ping-ponging back and forth from those two things. Also, y'all, I have no knowledge of the Menace having an ex-wife, so he's just still like inserting lies anywhere he can. Now I'm with the MPs, and I'm thinking that the Menace has to be running from something. The way that he's acting, he has to be like running from something or trying to get away from something, the way he's trying to like grasp at straws to stay in Korea. Because why are you even still here at this point? You should have went back home. So I asked the MPs like, hey, did you check into his background? And they were like, yeah. I said, okay, does he have any warrants for his arrest? And they were like, he's definitely had a lot of warrants for his arrest. And I'm like, okay, what's in his background? They go, we can't tell you what's in his background. We can't do that, but there's a lot there in Virginia. I'm like, Virginia? Mind you, I have told the MPs that the Menace was born in Washington, D.C. So they're now like, wink, wink, Virginia. I'm like, okay. Now I'm back at the KMP station, and I have a translator with me. The MPs told the Korean police to give me a female translator. So that's what I have. Thank God for the MPs. Thank God for my job. And everybody at my job who band together to, just have my back. Thank God for them. So I'm at the KMP station, and we're, moving forward with filing this report, pressing charges on the Menace. The MPs told me not to bring up the situation at the airport, because if I brought that up with the KMPs, they would immediately judge me and probably would just do something weird with my case. So I'm starting to tell them about the stalking because now we have evidence that this man has been stalking me. He's been showing up to my job and he's been showing up to my home. I am pressing charges for the theft of my house. And I also am pressing charges for the domestic violence. So I started telling the Korean police about the domestic violence at the hotel. So they're like, okay, we'll get the CCTV footage from that. I'm like, I really don't know what's on the CCTV footage from the hallways and stuff because the domestic violence happened inside of the hotel room. But I did tell them that I was running from them. If they could get the audio, there was no audio, but if they could get the audio, they could obviously hear the menace threatening me, things like that. There was no audio. So we're moving forward with that, and we're moving forward with getting a warrant for the menace's arrest. But in order for that warrant to go out, this case had to go to the prosecutors, and everything that I said had to be proven true before a warrant could go out for the menace's arrest. They also have to call the menace into the police station to sit down with him as well. The KMPs are now asking me, what evidence do I have for domestic violence? Obviously, y'all, I took pictures from the domestic violence that happened in DC with the grape situation, with me having bruises all down my legs and having bruises on my arms. And I also had pictures from bruises that occurred in Korea. I go into my phone to get those pictures to send them over to them, and they are all gone. They're deleted. The menace has deleted every bit of evidence that I have against him from my phone. If you're ever dealing with a narcissist, please be sure to keep any evidence that you have against them off of any personal device or any device that they've ever had access to. Keep it on your work computer, print it out, put it somewhere that they don't have access to, somewhere outside of your home that they don't frequent. MPs at this point are obviously like, it's okay, like, we believe you. We're going to try to get what we can. We're going to look at CCTV footage from your home, and we're going to look at CCTV footage from the hotel room. So I'm done with that particular meeting at the KMP station. We're going to come back to them because I have to go to this KMP station so many times throughout this process. So we're done with that, and I immediately hop on the phone with my best friend. I hop on the FaceTime with her, and I'm like, bestie, look in Virginia. Look for his criminal record in Virginia. In Korea, I could not access U.S. government websites without a VPN. And even after I did end up getting a VPN, it was still hard sometimes for me to get into government websites in Korea. So, in the US. So that's why I had to call my best friend to do this. So we're on FaceTime, she's sharing her screen, and obviously we start finding his criminal record in Virginia. I'm screenshotting that, I'm sending it over to my lawyer. A lot of what we found there was D-Rug related, obviously. So at this point, I'm talking to my best friend, I'm talking to my mom, and we are kind of going back and forth as to whether or not I should hit up people from his past and hit up his exes. We're kind of like, it might not be a good idea. They might not be willing to talk. Like, it just may not be that good of an idea. So now I'm like coming to the conclusion that this is a spiritual attack. This is a spiritual attack. I don't know what to do, but I just feel like this, like, what's going on is just completely out of the flesh. Like, it's just unworldly to me. I end up kind of sharing some of this some of this information with some of my family members, and one of my family members is like, absolutely reach out to the exes. If anything, they're just going to tell you they don't want to talk, but at least you tried. Absolutely reach out to the exes. I reach out to some people in his past, and I get in contact with his exes. So one of these exes I ended up getting on the phone with, and we got on the phone for hours. We were initially like just talking over social media, and she was like, girl, we need to get on the phone. So we get on the phone, and y'all, I swear to you, I think me and this girl was on the phone for like 8 hours, probably more. Correction, it was 12 hours. Yeah, we had a lot to talk about, y'all. I don't even know. We were on the phone for a long time. And we were just pretty much powwowing, you know, like, we realized we pretty much went through the same situation. We were each other's support. Like, swear to you, love this girl down, okay? Me and her ended up talking every single day for months. I'm not going to tell her story. That's her story to tell if she ever chooses to tell it. But she was a lot of help throughout the situation. And I think, like, we were just both healing, and we were just able to kind of figure some things out with each other. So I did ask her a few questions, and one of the things that I asked was about the schmurders. Had he ever schmurdered anyone? She said no, she doesn't necessarily think that's true. She thinks that was just like something that he was using to scare me, like a scare tactic. She's not sure if that's true, but she doesn't think it is. I asked her about the D-rugs, obviously, and this is where I found out that the menace takes fake D-rugs, and one of his addictions is Fent. So it was always Fent. It was never anything else. It was always Fent. So that happens, and then I end up finding out that he is addicted to PCP. He's addicted to Fent. He's addicted to coke. He's addicted to lean. Also, in this conversation, the ex tells me to be careful. She says that some of his family members, these are like fake family members, fake aunts and stuff like that, they are into witchcraft. She didn't use the exact term witchcraft, but she was just like, be careful who you have on your social media. Just keep a lookout for who's watching you, because some of them are into witchcraft. So now we're gearing up to the second prosecutor's meeting. This meeting, so my first prosecutor's meeting was at Incheon International Airport, and then my second one was transferred to another city in Korea, or whatever they call them here. Here's the email for that. You can pause to read, and then regulations down below. Obviously, prior to getting to this meeting, I'm talking to my lawyer, and I'm updating him on what happened, that the menace did all of this. And then I'm also like, look at the emails he sent you. He sent you a text message thread asking me if I want perks. If that doesn't implement him, I don't know what does. Obviously, he's the person who always had perks. If he has to ask me if I want them, he's the person in possession. I'm also like, he's clearly spiraling. The first email he sent, he said all of that stuff just to retract it and say that it was all a lie. Then I'm also telling my lawyer to get the fingerprints and to get the DNA test on the rugs. Get the fingerprints and get the DNA test. Let's end this. Get it. Tell my lawyer all of that. So we get to this prosecutor meeting, and my lawyer pulls me to the side in the beginning, and he's like, I think you should just stick to the story. Stick to the story you already had. If you don't stick to that story, you're definitely going to trial. I think it's best for you to just stick to the story. So we go into this prosecutor meeting, and they start asking me all the same questions about the Adderall and all this stuff. We take a break after the Adderall questioning, and my lawyer pulls me to the side again, and he goes, the menace sent those emails to the first prosecutors in a different location. I don't think that these prosecutors have them. Stick to your story. Don't change your story, or you're going to trial. So obviously, I'm inclined to tell the story, because when I tell y'all I was about to go in there guns blazing and tell every freaking thing, that's what I was going to do. My lawyer said don't do that, so I didn't. Now we go back into the meeting, and they're starting to ask me about the Fent. And I'm immediately like, I didn't answer these questions in the beginning. You have to ask the menace. You have to ask the menace. You're going to have to sit down and talk to the menace about it. I didn't answer these questions. So the prosecutors are now like, we have it right here that you answered the questions. You answered these questions. And I'm like, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. And so they're like, have you ever taken Fent? And I was like, no, not to my knowledge. Now, not to my knowledge, not that I'm aware of. No. And they were like, did the menace ever take any rugs? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure he has now. Yes. So They were like, well, the first prosecutor meeting, you said that the menace didn't take any rugs. And I said, I never said that. That was a question directed to the menace. He answered that question. Why would I answer a question for the menace? So I'm looking over at my lawyer. My lawyer's not saying anything. And now I'm looking at the translator and I'm like, you were there the first meeting. Say something. Why are they saying that I answered questions that I didn't answer in the first meeting? You're the one who translated the documents. She's like, I really don't remember. I really can't remember everything you said, and I really can't remember everything the menace said. Okay, so you're identifying that the menace made statements, right? That's what we're doing? Are you identifying that he made statements? I really can't remember. So I'm now kind of going in on the translator, and she's like, that's not how this works. That's not how this works. You're the one who's being questioned about this. You're the one who's being tried about this. It was in your belongings, and all of the statements go under you. We did not separate the statements. They all are things that you said, or they all are presented as things that you said. And I was like, no, that's not true. I looked at the documents. You identified when the menace made statements, and now you're saying that he didn't make any? Is that what we're doing? So obviously I'm pissed. I am pissed in this meeting. So they end up bringing out my rug test results. And obviously my rug test results come out positive. And they're like, why are these results positive? Because the menace gave me perks for my migraines. That's why they're positive. They're like, it's just this whole thing, and I'm irritated. We end up ending the meeting. I'm irritated. There's a lot that went on during that meeting. I don't even want to go into all of it, but there was a lot, and pretty much they were pinning all of the menace's statements on me. That's long story short. And so now I'm in a position where I'm like, I need to fire my lawyer. Because you sat there and you let this happen, and you never came to bat for me. You never said anything, and you never corrected them or identified which statements the menace made versus which statements I did. And then this freaking translator, the translator who translated the documents, is all of a sudden has amnesia. Okay. So after leaving this prosecuting meeting, I'm obviously get the ball rolling with trying to get another lawyer. I'm like, I need to fire this lawyer. This lawyer's not good for me. And I'm contacting my job, and I'm like, hey, I need another lawyer. Like, how do I get the ball rolling on this? They're telling me that I have to contact lawyers off the list. So when this first happened, there was a list that they sent me of Korean lawyers who are, I guess, zoned to work for the military. So I had to look for another lawyer on that list. Well, I'll start contacting other lawyers on that list. They're not taking my case because this other lawyer who's on this list already has my case. So they're pretty much not crossing paths with them. I guess they're a community and they weren't crossing him. So that happens. So from here, I get on the phone with the lady. Y'all, I did talk to the lady, okay? So this person came recommended. I get on the phone with her. First thing first, we're on FaceTime. First thing first, she says, you're in a situation because someone else put you there. And I was like, yes. She was like, is this a court case? Yes. What's your name? What's his name? What's your birthdays? First shot into the combo. This is what it is. So she goes, oh, he put roots on you, sweetheart. And I was like, huh? She was like, he put roots on you. She was like, just think about it. All the stuff that you went through, all the stuff that you let slide, everything that you've been through, you would have never in a million years gone through that. He is also not the type of person that you would pick. He put roots on you. She was like, you need to get a cleanse, like immediately. She goes on to say, he cloaked you. And I'm like, what? She's like, he cloaked you. He pretty much did something on you where you are now showing up in his aura and he's showing up in your light. So when you go and you speak to people who aren't spiritual, who don't know you, they're going to see him. They're going to see the manipulative liar that he is. And when people talk to him, they're going to see your characteristics. And I'm just like, what? She's like, you need to get that off of you. He cloaked you. She also goes on to say, this lawyer you have, get rid of him. He's going to ruin everything for you. The work's already been done on him. Get rid of him. He's not good for you. She goes on to say, I wrote notes about the things she says. And she says, you're going to realize that people are going to lie. There are going to be documents that are missing. People are going to remove documents from case files or lie about the contents of documents in case files. People are not going to do their jobs. The police aren't going to do their jobs. Your lawyer's not going to do their jobs. And everyone pretty much surrounding this situation isn't going to do their jobs. If they had done their jobs, this would have been done a long time ago. They would have figured out that it was him and not you. So yeah, she goes, they're going to tamper with evidence and lose vital evidence surrounding this. You need to get a cleanse. She also says that you were under mind control. So she was like, you're going to realize that you have lost a lot of memory. You're going to lose a lot of memory. And when you're talking to authorities, when you're talking to people, you're just going to randomly lose memory until this is off of you. I'm like, okay. So she's like, yeah, we need to get some work done on you. So, I'm asking about how much it is. She's like, I'm going to tell you now, it's expensive, hun. I know that you're doing a lot for this case, but it's expensive. And I'm like, okay. So from there, I end up going to someone that I know that I also trust. I don't know why I didn't think about going to this person before, or I think I did, but I talked to them briefly and not really about everything. So from there, I end up going to someone else that I've known for a very long time, and that person ended up putting protections over me. That person put protections on me, and that person opened up work. And so, yeah. From these conversations as well, they were like, your trial is going to end in February. Don't worry about anything. You're going to be fine. Everything's going to end in February. Okay? So I went to the second lady, and then I went back to the first lady because the first lady just spoke in terms that I understood. I craved to talk to her because I could just understand everything she was talking about. The second lady, I could understand her as well, but the first person just spoke to me directly. Like, I didn't have to think too much. So when I go back to her, she ends up saying, okay, you're protected now. Like, you're fine. They can't touch you anymore. Mind you, I didn't tell her that I went to someone else to put protections on me. So this second meeting, she instantly knows that I'm now protected and that they can't touch me anymore. She goes, you're protected now. They can't touch you. They can't mess with you like that anymore. But I need you to know that they're doing stuff over the people around you. So you're going to notice that she was like, please don't trust anyone in this time. You're going to notice that people around you are going to want information. They're going to try to gather information from you, but they're only using that to help the other side. She said, they're going to do work on the courts. They've already done work on your lawyer. They're going to do work on the courts. They're going to do work on the judges. They're going to do work on the prosecutors. So keep that in mind. So I asked her, did he do this himself? Like, he did this? And she was like, no, he's stupid. He's too dumb to do something like this. He didn't do it. People close to him did it. Like, and she goes, does he have aunts or something like that? And I was like, yeah, but they're not blood relatives. She was like, that doesn't matter. So I showed her pictures of the people who I knew who were connected to him. And immediately she's like, oh, you got problems on your hands. You got problems. I also asked, why would he do this? Like, why would he do all of this? And she was like, he knew that at some point you were going to realize who he was. At some point, something was going to fade. You were going to realize. And so he had to do something to keep you there. She goes, don't think for one second that this wasn't a plot. It was all planned. He was going to do this regardless. And as you know, we've already kind of come to those conclusions. Also, what was said was that you are protected now, but until you fully cleanse, that doesn't mean that some of the effects won't still linger and you won't still deal with some of the things that they've put over you. I also asked, when did this happen? And she said from the very beginning. It happened in the very, very beginning. And that brought me back to the Menace posting pictures of me on social media in the very beginning, and his aunts calling him, and they were saying, that's the one for you. That's the one you're going to get married to. I can tell that that's the one. Da 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 da. In those moments when they were doing that, something was just really weird and off about that, because you don't know me, you don't know anything about me, and from a picture you're now saying that I'm going to marry the Menace. That was odd. So that just brought me back to a flashback of that, and that's probably when the work started. Also, we did talk about destiny swapping, and obviously like that kind of coincide with the cloak situation. So he did try to destiny swap with me. And she, at the end of it all, she was just like, don't beat yourself up. She was like, there was nothing you could have done to like get out of this. There was nothing that, you know, you could have done to change it. This was just a part of their plan. So don't beat yourself up. You went through all of this because they put all of this work on you. So yeah, that is my witchcraft story that you all have been asking for on the lives. So now, obviously, we know that every time I had memory loss, or every time I was in the middle of the conversation and could feel like my memory and my brain kind of switching into what he was saying, that was a part of the mind control. And then everything else, I'm sure y'all could put that together. Yeah, so Kyla's comment actually just jogged my memory on a couple of things that the ladies were saying as well. So pretty much what they did for the Menace was put veils over people's eyes. So when you see the Menace, you see this upstanding, attractive man rather than the person he is, which is a dusty, crusty, musty, broke down bitch and bum. So obviously some of the things they do is cloak other people and put the Menace in other people's light. But also they were doing sex magic. So when I stopped having intercourse with the Menace in Korea, that's kind of when this spell started to break pretty much. And that's when like I started gaining clarity on a lot of things. And that's where in the story you can see that I'm starting to fight back certain things that are happening, and I'm starting to notice them, but I can't put a finger on what they are and why my brain's changing, why I'm having memory loss. But obviously like I have already started to fight back because I've stopped having intercourse with the Menace. So yeah, there was a veil over my eyes. That's why I couldn't see who he was. I saw something completely different. Now when I look at him, y'all, I can literally throw up in my mouth. Actually, thinking about him right now, I can taste throw up in my mouth. So let this be a lesson, ladies. Wait. Just wait. You know, don't have intercourse with these men. Wait it out. Wait till you know exactly who they are and if this is the person you want to be with. Because men do witchcraft. People in men's families do witchcraft. People do witchcraft for men. To alleviate getting in any situation, just keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, and y'all refrain from having intercourse. Like, for real. Like, I've been abstinent for almost 2 years now, and everything's just hella clear. Like, men will sit in my face and try to manipulate and stuff. Mind you, I'm not dating, but men are trying to date me. And I can just see it so clear now. My discernment is just so clear. But just take this as a lesson, y'all. Like, just take it as a lesson. If you can, refrain from intercourse. Just wait it out. Just see if that's who you really want, you know? I know y'all want to know more about these neighbors, so we're about to get into it. This is the neighbors, the Oppish neighbors. So, one thing to note, my neighbor's home, their windows back into mine. So from a certain side of their house, they can see into my house. And from a certain side of my house, from the back side of my house, I can see into theirs. So they can see when the lights are on in my house. They can see movement in my house. They can see all of that. Also, if they walk around to the back of my house. They can see directly into my windows if my curtains and stuff are open at nighttime. Okay, so as I already said, that first week that the menace was out, I was like pretty much staying at a hotel, just coming into my house to grab certain items and stuff. At that point, I was calling the police too to come to my house with me while I was grabbing items. And do y'all want to know that one of the police told me that he didn't have time for this, to stop calling them? Yeah, so the neighbors are consistently asking if I'm home. If I'm home, where am I? If I'm home. So once I got back into the house, and obviously my lights are on, there's movement in the house, every single day, this particular neighbor is asking me if I'm home. So she was spying, looking into my house because she could see that I'm home. Still, I lied. I was like, no, I'm not home. Or no, I just came to grab something. I'm going back to a hotel. Wasn't giving her any ammo or anything. Mind you, the neighbors are a couple. It's a girl and a boy, and they're a couple. Every time I'm in the house for like a couple of weeks, the neighbors consistently asking, where's your dog? Are you home? Like, are you back home now? Are you still staying in a hotel? It's too expensive for you to stay in a hotel. Where's your dog? Where's your dog? Where's your dog? Mind y'all, I put my dog in the dog hotel, and I told the dog hotel that no one is allowed to pick her up but me. Do not release her to the menace. He is not allowed to pick her up. So every time she, I guess, sees the lights on in my home, she's consistently asking where I am and where's my dog. So I'm already peeping that the menace is asking about my dog. I didn't want, for my dog's safety, I just didn't want my dog at the home at that point because I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know if the menace was going to try to run up. I didn't want nothing to happen to my dog, so I put her in a hotel for her safety. From here, the neighbors are consistently asking me to hang out. They're, hey, I miss you. I want to hang out. Da, 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 da. So I'm like, all right. Let me see what they got to say. So I go and I sit down with the neighbors. We go have some beers or soju, whatever the case may be. And the neighbors are now telling me that the menace, when they went to pick him up from the airport, he was just really drunk, and they used the word drunken. He was like, he was so drunken. He couldn't talk. He just kept like nodding off in the car. He would be in the middle of saying something and would just fall asleep in the middle of saying something. He was just really drunken. Like we couldn't understand anything he was saying, and every time he talked, he just fell asleep in the middle of it. Also, the menace couldn't get out of the airport that day. So they stopped the menace at the airport this day once again. And they weren't allowing him to leave the airport. And it was the neighbors. He got them in contact with the neighbors. And the neighbors are the ones who talked to the security at the airport to let the menace back into Korea. Also told me that he couldn't fill out his declaration form. He couldn't tell the security where he was going, who was picking him up. He couldn't tell them anything. Like, he didn't know what his address was. He didn't know anything. That checked out because I saw his declaration form, and the way he filled it out, he filled out everything in different, like, if it asks for his name, he probably put his his passport ID into that slot, and nothing was pretty much filled out on his declaration form, and if it wasn't the correct information that the form was asking for. Also asked them why they were at my house the night the menace was being put out, when the police were in my house while the menace was stealing my things, and they initially told me that they weren't there. So obviously what I did was pull out my handy dandy camera and showed them that they were there. So then they changed their answer, and they were like, we were just checking on him because the police can be really mean. They would hurt him. They would tase him. And that was what the guy was saying. The girl was trying to like hint to the guy to stop talking. And she was like, no, we weren't there. So as we know now, the menace was definitely on drugs coming into Korea. Now, my speculation, what happened here is that he got caught up at the airport again. Something happened, and he probably took the drugs that he had on him. That is my speculation. I'm not sure. This is alleged information, but to say he got stopped at the airport again and he was high, he was definitely trying to bring drugs back in from another country. Probably succeeded. I don't know. So the neighbors are at this point asking me if the menace stays with them, because it's too dangerous for a foreigner to be in Korea and to be homeless. And I don't know, like, you know, they're asking me about his finances. Does he have money? Like, being super nosy. And I'm like, I don't know. Ask him. I don't freaking know. But yeah, they were asking if he could stay there. And I was like, absolutely not. You can see into my house from your windows. Why the hell would I, you know, mind you, the restraining order is in process. It's already been filed. They just have to issue it to the menace at this point. So after restraining order was issued, the menace was not even allowed back into my apartment complex. So on the front side of my house, or back, whatever you want to call it, there are large windows. Like, my living room has a really large window. I have to do a apartment tour for y'all. My neighbor's also telling me, she's like, hey, like, just wanted to let you know, like, don't walk around your house, like, you know, with only like underwear on or something, because like people from the outside can see it. She was like, not you. I just saw somebody when I was walking. I saw somebody else on like your side of the building, and I could just see through their windows. Do I look dumb? Do I look dumb to you? So basically what this neighbor was telling me is that she's been walking to the back side of my house to spy on me, to see if I'm in the house. So at one point we were standing outside and she was asking which floor was mine, like which window was mine. Like, when I tell you they are so bold with the questions and they think we're dumb, like we just don't understand what they're asking, why the fuck would I tell you which window is mine? You already know which window is mine because you already been like looking into my window. Every time my lights are on, you asking if I'm home. This brings me to a hairdresser appointment that I had. I went to go get some braids and I went to my hairdresser. Mind you, the menace has never gone to this hairstylist ever. So I'm at the hairstylist and she started to ask me questions, like random questions about like my personal life, about like if I'm dating and stuff like that. And so obviously I'm alert and I'm like, you clearly want to know something, so why are you asking me these questions? Like, spit it out. What are you trying to get to? She's like, oh, you know, the menace came in here one day and I just wasn't sure if it was you, if you're the person he was talking about, but I think you are. Like, he was just really upset and he was crying and like, I think you all should get back together. I think you all should get back together. I was like, ma'am, no. No. So she's going on and she pretty much tells me that the menace saw me like walking outside of base one day, because this hairstylist is literally right outside of my military base. So the menace saw me walking on the strip outside of base one day going into a restaurant, and he ran into her hairstylist appointment and was pretty much like, oh my god, she has a restraining order on me, I can't see her, I can't be around her, blah blah blah. And he's like in there like crying and hyperventilating. The menace was still stalking. Even after he was issued the restraining order, he was still hanging out around my job. To the hairstylist. This hairstylist is African, by the way. The neighbors that I spoke about in part 28 are Korean. So this hairstylist is talking to me and she's like, yeah, he told me that you broke up with him for cheating on you. I believe him when he says that he didn't do that. He didn't do it. You need to get back together with him. You can't just have him out here living like that and just not knowing where he's going to go. You have to get back together with him. Are y'all going to work it out? And I was like, no. I was like, lady, this situation isn't about cheating. I did not break up with the menace for cheating. And even if I did, it wouldn't be your business if that's why I wanted to leave somebody. Furthermore, I was like, the menace put his hands on me. He'll never be back with me. And I didn't tell her anything about everything else that was going on because obviously it's not her business. And she's in contact with the menace. So she's also like, well, you'll never find anyone who loves you the way he does. I can just tell that he loves you. He loves you so much, and you'll never find anyone who loves you that way again. I'm sorry, excuse me, what? What? I just told you that somebody put their hands on me, and your response is that I'll never find anyone that loves me that way again. And she was like, he'll never do it again. He'll never do it again. So conversation is going on, and obviously I'm getting uncomfortable in this chair. I honestly want to get up and walk away. But the next day is Monday. I have meetings to go to, and I absolutely need my hair done. So she's going on and on talking. Obviously, my discernment is up at this point, and I just end up saying, like, you're lying. You're lying. I can tell that you're not telling the truth. You're leaving things out. You know a lot more than what you say you know. You're lying. And she goes, oh, okay, he did admit to me that he cheated on you. He did, but it wasn't somebody from the base. It wasn't anybody like that. It wasn't anyone that you knew. You was just like, you just need to get back. You're not going to get back together with him. You just need to get back together with him. So now I'm inclined to believe, because where did this situation from the base even come up? Now I'm inclined to believe that he found somebody on the base and went out of the country with somebody on the base. Because why did that even come up? And you just sat here. Your hands are in my head, lady. And you're sitting here lying to me, and you literally sat in my face, pleaded to me to get back with the menace, and then first you said, I believe him when he says he didn't cheat, and now you're saying that it was something else and he told you the truth. By the way, it was the last time I've ever seen that lady. Like, that's the last time her hands have ever been in my head. She, like, for months contacted me to tell me to come back to her shop. When she saw me looking for other salons when it was time for me to get my hair done again, she was looking out of her window, watching me look for other salons, and would text me and tell me to come to her shop if I need my hair done. And then she also started stalking me on social media. She somehow found my social media. Obviously, she has access to the menace, because how'd you find my social media? And she started stalking me on social media. So that was her. A monitoring spirit added to my list of people. I get to the base during this time as well, and I end up running into the tailor, the lady who is making the suit for the menace, or her company is making the suit for the menace. I run into her, and she's instantly like, what happened to you and the menace? Are you guys going to get back together? And I was like, no. She was like, why? I was like, it's none of your business, but he's a bad person and I have no reason to be with him. She's like, but you can't leave him out here homeless. Like, you can't just leave him with no place to go. Where is he going to live? I don't give a fuck. I don't care. She's like, no, you can't do that to your husband. You need to get back with your husband. That is not my husband. That is not my husband. I don't know why this man is telling you that I'm his wife, but that's not my husband, lady. I don't care what he does with himself. She's like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that in Korea. Like, it's really hard for people to live out here in Korea without a job and da-da-da-da. Okay, once again, not my problem. So at this point, like, why is he even still here? He should be already back in the United States. From here, somebody who's a member, part of Divine Nine, ends up calling me or coming to my office or something. And same thing. What's going on with you and the menace? Are you going to get back together with the menace? No. No, I'm not. Why y'all keep asking me this? She's like, well, you can't have him out here like that. You can't do that to your husband. That's not my husband. Once again, that's not my husband. Well, you know, like, did you ever even love him? Like, you can't just stop loving somebody like that. You need to give him another chance. No, I'm not. So y'all, this is probably like in like June. So this is like month 3 of being in Korea. I put the menace out in the beginning of May, and this is now June. And the menace is still in Korea, grasping at straws to try to stay here, pretty much. Or either this was like the end of May or beginning of June. I'm not sure. From there, I get a phone call on my personal phone. And I answer the phone, and the person's like, hey, did you talk to so-and-so? Talking about the last person that I just talked to that's a part of Divine Nine. And I was like, who is this? Like, why are you calling my phone asking me, did I talk to somebody? Like, you know, who is this? They literally sat on my phone and was like, oh, you don't even got my number saved? You don't even got my number saved? Click. Mind y'all, I know that this has to be one of my coworkers because it's a Korean number. Mind y'all, also, my coworkers, every last one of them, old enough to be either my parents or grandparents. Okay. So why you calling my phone, playing on my phone like that? I don't know. So I called back and I was like, don't play on my phone. Who is this? Like, we gonna be professional. Did you call me for work? And what's going on with you and team? I say his name. He like, yeah, ha ha ha, that's me. So what's going on with you and team? I'm like, what? So team is what the Qs call each other. They call their, like, you know, bros or whatever, team, apparently. So he like, nah, you know, I didn't see you at the boat party. So I was just wondering what was going on with you and team. So the Qs had a boat party. I think it was Memorial Day weekend, whichever that holiday is in May. That's at the end of May. And I think it's like May 25th or something like that. They had a boat party that I was initially supposed to go to with the Menace when we first got here, that we had planned to go to. So he's like, yeah, I didn't see you there. And, you know, I ain't know nothing happened to y'all. I just got a random phone call from team and he's like just distraught. He's just so messed up over y'all not being together. And are you going to get back together with him? I'm like, no. And he like, yeah, man, he told me that you broke up with him for cheating. Like, man, like what? Like what's going on? And I was like, bro, it's way more than that. And whatever you're being told is probably a lie. And so the guy goes, this is his frat brother. The guy goes, well, I just really hope team get it together. And I was like, yeah, and he's not going to do that on my back. And that was the end of our conversation. So all these people, the Menace now has everybody that I work with on my personal business that I would have never even once said 2 words to about him and about my personal business. Now everybody I got to see every day that I got to go into meetings with and everything else, the Menace is telling them God knows what. So, okay, I'm back and forth from the police station at this point, and I'm like, when am I going to get my stuff back? I need my stuff. The Menace is gearing up to going to his sister's wedding, so I need my stuff back before he goes to that wedding. Also, you all said that once this case was open, you were going to put a ban on his passport so he cannot leave. Why hasn't there been a ban on his passport yet? And they're like, oh, like, he said he didn't have his passport. We don't know his address here in Korea. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I have a ban on my passport for something criminal. And he's now swimming in the middle of a criminal court case, and y'all aren't making sure that you have a ban on his. So I'm sitting in the police station one day because they called me back in there, and I was under the impression that they were getting updates for the charges and stuff that I pressed on the Menace. Well, as I'm sitting there and as they're asking questions, I'm like, wait, what is this? Because they were asking me questions as if I was a criminal. And I was like, what is this? So come to find out, the Menace, all the charges that I pressed on the Menace reversed them and pressed them on me as well. So he is now saying that I'm the violent person once again, and sends that famous picture from when he was graping me. Once again, when I bit him up here or on his neck, somewhere around here. Sends that over again. He now says that I have been stalking him and I need to stop stalking him. How am I going to stalk you when I don't even know where you live, sir? You're homeless in my eyes. Like, I'm so fucking confused. He also says, once again, that we're married. He tells them that I couldn't sponsor him on base unless we're married, which is completely untrue. He also sent them videos and photos from my going away party and told them that that was our wedding and that both sets of our parents were there. His parents and my parents were both there. My father has passed. Both his parents have passed. So how were both sets of our parents and all of our family there? And mind you, all the family and stuff in the pictures, that's all mine. He only had a handful of people come to that dang going away party. So what are we... He also said that the things he stole from my house is his. That he paid me for all of those things. That I purchased them at first and then he paid me back for them. So he sends me Cashapp. He sends them Cashapps, Cashapp receipts of all the Cashapps that he has ever sent me, and said that those were from him paying me back for the things that he took from my house because he purchased everything initially. Mind y'all, the menace, when he had me and his sister in a group chat, and his sister was asking me if I could send him the plane tickets, the flight tickets to her wedding that I initially purchased, that the menace was supposed to be paying me back for, he sent her some of the same Cash Apps saying that he already paid me for those plane tickets. So now he's using those same Cash Apps to say that he owns everything he stole from my house because he purchased it. Mind y'all, the amount of things that he stole from my house and the little bit of Cash Apps that he has sent me over time, mind you, some of those Cash Apps were before we even got into Korea. Those little bit of Cash Apps that he sent me over time don't even equate to the amount of things that man stole from my house. So now I have to go back and prove that he's lying because they now believe him because he sent these Cash Apps. So I'm like, bro, I had this since 2017. Here's a picture of me in it. Here's a receipt for this. Here's a receipt for that. Like, so now I'm in the middle of another court case that has to go to the prosecutors because this man has now pressed charges on me for everything that he did to me. So from here, I end up going to my piece of shit lawyer because I have not found another lawyer yet. And I sit down with him in his office and he's basically like, yeah, the menace went and made statements at the prosecutor's office and it's not looking good for you. You're not going to win this case. It's not looking good for you. So I'm sitting with my lawyer and I'm like, what do you mean? I've already told you to get the video footage, the CCTV footage from the airport that day. He removed rugs from his bag. You need to get it from the footage and you need to see what he did with them, first of all. That should be on CCTV footage. Secondly, DNA test and fingerprint the rugs and my medicine bottles. Furthermore, I'm like, look at the messages that he has sent you. Once again, look at the messages if this is not implementing him. And I'm like, there is no way that you don't see that this man is involved. Delete everything else that you know. How is somebody that's this involved, who's going to the prosecutor meetings, who's doing all this stuff, who's sending in evidence against me for something he has nothing to do with? For something he didn't do? Like, y'all can't see that he's framing me? Please, help me understand. Help me fucking understand. My lawyer's like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't look good for you. Then goes on to say, I'm not doing this for money. I already got paid. All right. Meeting adjourned. Let me go find another lawyer. I'm going to try to get through this part of the story without tears because every time I've talked about it before here, I've literally had to control myself from bursting out into tears. So I get a phone call from back home and I'm told that my grandmother is in a hospital and she's not going to make it. Immediately, I get in contact with my lawyer and I'm like, I have to go home. I get in contact with my job. I'm like, I have to go home. My grandma's not doing okay. She's in the hospital. I really want to go home. My job, they write letters and they send letters to the prosecutors basically saying I've never done anything to be a flight risk. We approve for her to go home. They released the travel ban that they have on me because my job had to have a travel ban on me as well. And I'm talking to my lawyer. I'm giving him all this information. I have friends, I have family that wrote letters to the prosecutors that pretty much was like, please let her come home. You know, like she's really close to her grandmother. And I was so close to my grandmother. And my grandmother had been sick for like a while. And I always said, like, it didn't matter where I was in the world or like what I was doing. If anything happened to my grandmother, I would go home. And I'm talking to my lawyer and I'm sitting him, you know, I'm like telling him about this and he's like, okay, I'm going to see what I can do. So they start asking me about like my grandmother and asking all this stuff. And they're pretty much like asking prying information, asking for me to get medical documentation for my grandmother. I had to get all this stuff. And then I sent over medical documentation and they're like, oh, this doesn't prove that this is your grandmother. Like pretty much like I could be lying about this being my grandmother. And I have to get the doctor to go back and write medical documentation that says that this is my grandmother. And by this time, my grandmother, she was in the hospital for a couple of days. And like by the time they was asking me for all these questions my grandmother had passed. And had they just let me go the day I requested it, I would have been there before my grandmother had passed. So I'm like, okay, now my grandmother's passed. Like, I have to get home to the funeral. The funeral is coming up. I have to get home to the funeral. Like, what do you need? And I'm sending over all this information because they're asking me for all this information regarding my grandmother's health. And I have to send over all this information. This is the Korean prosecutors. And my lawyer is now like ignoring me. This is like leading up to the day that I have to leave for my grandmother's funeral. And my lawyer is now like ignoring me, and I'm constantly calling, like, I have to get out of here. Like, all of my stuff is here. My dog's here. My mother's here. Everything I own is here. Like, I'm coming back, but I need to go to my grandmother's funeral. So 2 hours before my plane was scheduled, the plane that I would have been getting on was supposed to leave. 2 hours before that, before this, I end up calling somebody that I met at the police station and asked the person that I met at the police station, can they please call the prosecutor's office and see what's going on, because my lawyer is ignoring me. He's not contacting me back. He's not telling me what's going on. So she calls over and she calls me back and was like, they wouldn't give me any information. They said that they already gave the information to your lawyer. They already gave the information to my lawyer. My lawyer's not contacting me. So my lawyer waits till the last minute. Like, the last minute, hours before the plane that I should be getting on is supposed to leave, to tell me that I can't go to my grandmother's funeral. Y'all, when I tell y'all the scream I scrumped, like, this was the first time I really just like screamed, and I was just in my office and I was just screaming and I was crying, and I was like, I just balled up in the floor in my office, because what the fuck do you mean I can't go to my grandmother's funeral? So now at this point, I'm obviously like, and my lawyer during this process, he was also lying. Like, he was like, oh, I haven't heard from the prosecutor. The prosecutor's in the hospital. We haven't heard back from him yet. And then like later he's like, oh yeah, the prosecutor said that you can't go. Well, how did he so he said that I can't go from the hospital bed? Like, what is going on? So my lawyer through this process was lying. I don't know everything that was a lie, but he was 100% lying. And me and my mother were catching it. My mom even got on the phone with him, and the lawyer got rude with my mom because my mom is like catching him in lies and calling it out. And so he gets rude and snappy with my mother. So yeah, I couldn't go home to my grandmother's funeral. Also, so after they denied me to go, I'm like, why would you ask me to get all this information about my grandmother if you were never going to approve it? Like, that's not making sense. Like, you asked me to get so much information about her health, her medical documentation, and you never even had any intention on approving it. You just wanted fucking prying information about my life and my grandmother's personal life. They initially told me that my grandma wouldn't make it beyond the night, and My last words to my grandma were on like FaceTime. And I was like, Grandma, I'm coming. Like, I'm trying to get out there. And my grandma ended up making it like a couple more days. And I swear, I think she was trying to wait. But she couldn't wait anymore. From here, I ended up getting the case file, my case file. So in there are all the statements that the menace made to the prosecutor. And the menace, calming down from my grandma's situation, I can't really talk about that too much in detail because I will be on this screen bawling. But in that case file, the menace told the prosecutors everything that I told to the MPs. So everything that I had already reported to the MPs, the menace told it to the prosecutors as if it was his story. So when I reported to the MPs that the menace had hacked into my computer, he is now reporting that I hacked into his computer and I hacked into his email. I reported to the MPs that the menace sent over all the information that he wanted to be told throughout this court case. He is now saying that I hacked into his computer and I did that. The menace also, when he hacked into my computer, sent emails from my email account to his, further framing me for the crimes. He pretty much sent emails of me talking to him through email after I've already broken up with him and wasn't speaking to him at all. And the emails are pretty much saying like, oh, the Koreans are dumb. They'll never believe you over me. Me saying this to the menace. They'll never believe the menace over me. And just like all this stuff of pretty much like framing me even further. So this is the extent that he went to frame me. So now when I get this court case, this court file, I am now discovering that the reason they weren't letting me leave was because of the statements that the menace made against me.